Okay, I was originally going to do a video on a whole bunch of stuff, but this video is just going to be on land patents. I was going to try and lump some other stuff in with it, but it's going to take way too long. Okay, I already tried it out and it was just going way overboard on time. So in order to keep this thing short for people, we're just going to talk about land patents, what they are a little bit, and I'm going to keep this very brief. Okay, so without further ado, what is a land patent? And a land patent is very simply is just when land. We're in the United States now. Okay, this is what the area that we're dealing with is the United States of America. Okay, I'm just going to deal with land ownership here and land patents in particular. Okay, so originally when land was divvied up, and this is not every case. Okay, some of the original colonies, this would have been done, maybe done differently. Okay, but I'm talking where I'm at in Kansas and the vast majority of the country, a land patent was issued. Okay, so you made a claim for a certain piece of land, and I don't know, you paid a small token of money back then to do the paperwork, and then after you'd sat on that piece of land and made your claim and maybe made some improvement, depends what the rules were at that time, you had the right to claim this piece of land, and they issued you with a land patent. Okay, from there, okay, now preceding that, everything was sorted out with treaties, and preceding that, everything was just stolen from other people. Okay, but they legalized it for want of a better term, and then we had treaties signing stuff over, and then we come down to a land patent, which is essentially when stuff gets into kind of individual ownership. Okay, and this is what we're concerning ourselves with now. This is the sort of the start of the lineage of deeds running down to the present day owner. Okay, so really, if you're dealing with something today, you're going to have some kind of deed. You're going to have some kind of joint tenancy deed, a tenancy deed. You might have a quit claim deed. You might have oh blooming hell, what other kind of deeds are there? Warranty deed. There's all, there's various different kinds of names for these things, but essentially what they are is just a different color of title to a certain piece of land, which we would now call property. Okay, now I don't know if there's necessarily a difference in land and property, okay, in terms of actual color of ownership and in actual within the definition. Okay, because I've seen some old deeds that call land property, and I'm not 100% sure, because I've heard some people talking about land and property in different terms, but not to get confused with real estate. Okay, and there's tons of different terminology out there for stuff that you would assume is the same thing. Okay, I don't want to get bogged down with trying to define a bunch of different stuff. I just want to give an overview of what the patent represents and how where you go from knowing what a patent is and what it does for you. Okay, so the patent was the original signing over, if you like, from the government to a man or a woman. Okay, now from that point on, I'm told, or I've heard that what would have originally happened is if that piece of land had gotten sold, the patent would have gone with that piece of land originally. But with the invention of title insurance and other things, what they did is they moved from just exchanging the original title document, which would have been the patent, into exchanging deeds and different forms of deeds, and these would then be insured or guaranteed by a third party, and that would then give you, so you knew you were buying something that didn't have any encumbrances on it or something like that, you know. You knew you were buying what you thought you were buying, if you like, and you were guaranteed that. So anyway, everybody moved into this exchanging of deeds, and with the stipulation of having the sort of insurance with it, these deeds were recorded down at the local governmental facility, at the local county recorder's office. So all deeds, basically all property, all deeds, all land is now, there's some kind of chain there of different deeds, and that's all recorded down at the county office. Okay, I don't know, because I've never actually done the process in person. I don't know what actually happens when you go down to the recorder's office. I asked them down there about recording things, and they said as long as you have the original document, you can come and record something. Okay, now whether or not, I assume the original document goes into their filing cabinets down there. Okay, and then you get a certified copy back. I'm not 100% sure about that actually, but I've moved on past the whole idea of doing something like that. That to me is, in securing your land, is probably not the, in my opinion, is probably not the right way to go. But there's a lot of different, it depends at what level you want to secure your land, to what you do. Okay, so what we've got then is we've actually got a land patent that was issued to a man. Okay, and he took that land patent. As far as I'm aware, the government doesn't have the original land patent. Okay, they just have a copy. Now, when you go and record something down at the recorder's office, they may just have a copy of that as well. I'm not 100% sure whether they have the original document or whether they have a copy. Okay, the fact of the matter is, whether it's a copy or the original, it's just a piece of paper. Okay, but gosh, the problem is I don't want to get into too much complicated stuff with just doing the overview of what a land patent is. Okay, what you'll do is, if you start researching this stuff, and you'll see about people talking about whether you really own your land, and then they'll start talking about why property taxes are charged on your land, and it's because you don't really own your land, and it's for a number of reasons how they can get away with charging property tax. Okay, and the basic fact of the matter is, a number of reasons, without going through them all. Number one, you are probably acting as a person in the legal system right now. Okay, number two, your property, even if it's as a person, the person, if you like, is owned by the legal system and has to adhere to all the legal system's rules. Okay, is an agent, as far as I'm concerned, is an agent of the legal system. The person is. The legal system has your property recorded, so it isn't even really your property. Okay, it's an idea of property ownership that they have that is recorded. Okay, so you don't even really have, you don't have a proper piece of paper that says you have the title. Okay, you just have a copy of something that is a copy of something else, which leads to another copy of something else, which is all in their system and which has all been generated by that system as well. Even the land patent is actually generated by the system, but I'll get into that in a minute. So not only is all the sort of titles of ownership in the system, you're in the system, and so the problem is everything that you want to claim, or everything you're trying to claim, is already in the system. Okay, that's the big deception, and there's people out there that are trying to give you a solution within that system to bringing forth a land patent, generating a land patent, which you can't do because the land patent already exists. Okay, and you making a claim at any level of there, right, to the land patent or the title or a deed or the title of anything that precedes it is only as good as whatever precedes it. So in a certain respect, when these people are trying to do you some kind of like what they call a land patent sandwich or something, what they're doing is they're taking the chain of title of the land all the way back to the patent, and then you've got to check that there's no funny business going on in there, that it's not been, something's been signed off to somebody else at some point, or there's some kind of clause in there that gives rights to other people. Okay, but that's basically all the sandwich does, is it just proves your chain of title to that land. Okay, and then what you do is then what they're talking about doing is going down and recording this or something back in the same system that generated all this stuff to give you some kind of title over it. Now it doesn't make very much logical sense to me thinking about it now, but this is the kind of thing, the kind of push that they're saying, is that now you have some extra rights over that land. Well, if you've gone and re-recorded it back down at the county office, it doesn't give you any extra rights. You've just put it straight back into the system. Okay, you know, I'm at 12 minutes already, and I'm trying to explain this stuff as quickly as I can, but there's a lot of stuff to get through. Okay, so the basic fact of the matter is what you're dealing with, and let me sum it up because I don't think I should go on too much longer with this, is that all the land patent is an original document to the title of the land. Okay, that gives, and every other title and it usually gives, an heir or an assign. It usually passes on that privilege to the next person on the list. Okay. Now some people will say, well, you've got to go ahead and accept that stuff. My argument to accepting something is to actually take possession of something. You know, if you give your mate $5, right, and he takes it from you and says thanks, he's accepted the $5. Okay. If he says no, I don't want it, I'm not going to take it from you, then he's not accepted it. Okay. So acceptance is the physical, can be, in my book, can be the physical acceptance of something, or you can simply say, okay, I call my mate up and say, I'm giving you $5, and he says, well, I can't physically take it from you right now, mate, because I'm 20 miles away, but thanks, I would love to have that. He has now verbally accepted it. Or if you wanted to do it the old-fashioned way, you could write him a letter saying, I'm going to give you $5 when I see you next. Is that all right? And he could write a letter back saying, yes, I would love to accept the $5, thank you. So there's different ways of accepting something. Okay. There's a lot of people out there that are saying You got to do your land patent. You've got to get the sandwich, which is the chain of title. All that already exists. If you know it's true and it's recorded, and you can go and look it up, and you know it's true, there's nothing to stop you just accepting it, or accepting title under some other guise, as long as you know it's all. There's no other interests in that piece of land or property. There's no, there's no. Okay, it makes the case clearer if it ever went to court, but it exists already. That stuff already exists. It's just easier if you go to court to try and prove something, to have all that stuff in front of you and be able to show somebody it. But the fact of the matter is that stuff already exists. By taking possession of something, you've accepted that claim. Okay? By living in your house, the property, by living on your land, that claim has already been possessed, and the claim has already been made, if you like. It's like when they originally dished out land, in order for you to get your land patent, you had to go and stake your claim and go and physically occupy that piece of land, and usually there was a stipulation that you had to improve it some way, i.e. that you didn't just go and claim it, you actually went and lived there. And by living there, you made improvements. Okay, it was just a way of them I say legally, but lawfully. This all boils back down to natural law. The idea of going and staking a claim under God, and in order to stake that claim, you had to have possession. And what better way to prove possession than actually being able to have somebody physically do an improvement and live there? Okay, I'm assuming they put this in place to stop people just going out and claiming vast quantities of land, okay, for themselves, without actually having possession of it, or, do you know what I'm saying? Or taking more than their fair share. So this all boils back down to natural law, the way that all these systems are set up. Everything's based in natural law. But we've got so separated from natural law. Oh, bugger, what did I just do there? Oh. Sorry, that just beeping at me. I just accidentally pressed the key. I've got my book on it. Pressing down on keys. So I've lost my train of thought now. But everything that the legal system does is actually based in natural law. But the purpose behind it is because natural law can't actually allow a lot of this stuff to actually happen the way it does. So you have to have this sort of breakdown between natural law and what wants to be accomplished, okay? And so you have the legal system, which is basically a very wishy-washy, made-up load of poppycock in order to allow men to be able to do certain things, okay? That's all it boils down to. To allow men to be able to do things that's more outside of nature than nature allows, okay? Because if we just stuck to natural law, we wouldn't be able to do the majority of the things that governments do, and the majority of things that men do, you wouldn't be able to do in natural law. So basically, in order to twist the rules of nature, men invented the legal system, okay? Anyway, jumping back to land patents. So you can't, unless a piece of land hasn't been patented before or granted before to somebody else, you can't actually create a land patent. And there's people going on about getting land patents issued. You can't get any of that stuff done. All you can do is go and get a copy of the original land patent that was made, okay, or land grant. And somebody somewhere has that grant, unless it hasn't been granted away yet. But they probably, if it's a piece of land that hasn't been granted away yet, that's been kept in the national interest somehow, it's probably been granted to the national interest somehow. or somehow granted to the federal government, which can't really be done. And actually, going back to this whole basis of them issuing out land, is the fact that the federal government or the original seated government, any kind of government, is fictional. Okay, it just is, unless you're going to hand power off to one individual, and in order to do that, the one individual has to be put there, okay, by everybody with total agreement, okay, in order to have within a certain territory, in order to have authority over all those people, okay, which is just not happening, okay, and didn't happen at the beginning of the United States. Even with a king or a queen, it's not happening really. I digress off on a tangent again, but the land patent is essentially just that first chain, link, okay, of title, okay, and you can't create a new patent from land that's already been patented. There's people out there that sell this, that come up with this idea from somewhere. There's people that come up with the idea of making a sandwich and then go and recording that, which is a complete waste of time. You're just recording stuff that's already down in the county recorder's office, and your name's probably already on that in the last deed. It's already recorded down there. There's absolutely no point to any of that. These are people that they're either scam artists or they don't know what the hell they're talking about, basically, or they're just they just don't know what they're talking about. Misinformed or whatever, delusional. The basic fact of the matter is, I'm supposed to be on a 30-minute film now. Video, Dan. Why do I keep saying film when it's a video? The point of it is, right, is that I'm going to let you into a little secret here. Now, the land patent and all other subsequent what's the word I'm looking for? Previous, pre whatever grants to the land patent, and then from the land patent subsequently on, in terms of deeds and so forth and so on. It's just a chain, okay? And it's just a chain, and it's all in the legal system. Everything's in the legal system, okay? And I hate to break it to people, but I am of the opinion right now that a land patent it's a debatable thing now as to whether the original recipient of the land patent was even outside of the system to begin with, okay? Was even a real man or a woman. And I think we were at a crossroad. We were at a point where the legal system was kind of merged with natural law. Because if you look at the foundation of the country, which is the Declaration of Independence, okay, that's the initial foundation of the country, okay, and that clearly states or clearly defines the fact that the country is based on natural law. It's founded in natural law, okay? There's no getting away from that. That's actually the true nature of the law in this country, is natural law. What we had then is then, of course, in order to create a government, in order to have any kind of control over people, which is what a government is, there had to be the creation of the fictitious legal system, okay? And it already pre-existed before this time, and it's pre-existed probably for tens of thousands of years, the legal system. And it's it's pre-existed along with natural law. Okay, these two things are intertwined. But what we've got now is we've got, let's say we've got natural law here, and we've got the legal system here. Okay, what's actually happened is the legal system has kind of enveloped and taken over natural law. Instead of being in harmony with natural law, it's not. It's taken it over. Okay. With that being said, I don't know whether a land patent really gave a real man a claim of ownership to the land. Okay, I think it did to a certain extent, but we very quickly got away from that system. Okay, and I think it was kind of like, I think the land patent was the original. It was the kind of, once that was gone, that was the end of the sort of natural sort of claim to land, and the legal sort of claim started coming in. Okay, and even in the sense of the land patent, I'm trying to think of some words for this. There are certain things when that land patent granted to an individual, there are certain things that individual was already in the system. Okay. Number one, it was the system that was issuing that thing. Okay. So the land patent really is, it was the government that issued the land patent. Okay. So it is really part of the system. It's really fictional in that sense of the matter. Okay. Can something fictional actually give any kind of ownership or even any kind of title? Let's not even talk about ownership. Let's just call title. Okay. And title gives you the right to possess something. Okay. That's what we're going to do here. Does the land patent that is fictional, that came from a fictional entity, give you any actual rights? It doesn't. There is a chain there that shows that you have a certain right, but it in itself doesn't authorize anything really. It's just a piece of paper with an idea on it about a certain piece of property. Okay, and that's all deeds are. They just transfer that on and on and on and on. Everything's kept within that system. Okay, land patents, unless you've got the actual original land patent, the land patents kind of disappeared from that point. Okay, and so everything's back in the system. Everything's controlled by the system. Everything's issued by the system. Everything's re-recorded into the system. Okay, so the whole idea sits within the system of property ownership or title. Now, so actually, you know, it's difficult for me to explain this stuff because it's all based in that. Once you get your head wrapped around natural law, it becomes, this is something completely new out there. There's nobody really talking about this kind of stuff. But once you get yourself clearly accepting of natural law, then this stuff becomes easier to understand. Now, the only thing you can really do is what a land patent or a land patent sandwich with all the other deeds would establish is it would establish your rightful claim that nobody else had a claim to that land above you. Okay. Now, if you possess the land, which you probably do, you probably live on your land or live in your house or whatever. you've already taken claim of that land, essentially. The actual physical possession of it is actually the claim, okay? And if all those subsequent documents exist, then the establishment is already there on the record, albeit in their records, that your establishment exists, and that you have already taken possession of it. You've already taken possession under God of your land because you live there. Okay. Now, what I probably would suggest to people is that you actually make note of this, and this is probably, I'm not 100% sure yet of my process, but the process that I'm going to do is something to this effect in securing my land. Okay, I'm going to take and I'm going to make myself a sandwich. Okay, not a sandwich to eat. I'm going to make myself the title of chain, chain of title, sandwich on my property. Okay, so I've got a clear reference of all the preceding documents that relate to this piece of land, that nobody else has a claim before me right now. Then what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to stake my claim. I'm going to actually claim, excuse me again, I'm going to claim under God or under natural law. In fact, I'm going to use the same kind of language that's in the Declaration of Independence. And in fact, I'm going to actually write this as a declaration of claim. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an original document, and I'm going to make that claim, and then I am going to sign it in a way that is not any kind of fictional signature in terms of I don't know, in terms of what you have to do is you've got to make that claim, right? But what you don't want to do is you don't want to reclaim something back as you have to make. I guess I've jumped into this before really explaining the background of how you would make that claim, okay? And this is really should be for another video, because when you make a claim, okay, what you don't want to do is you don't want to make the claim and then go and give the claim back to another entity. This is essentially what you do when you go down and re-record something. You write on the original document, and then you give it to somebody else. You give that claim to somebody else, and they accept it from you. Okay, the county recorder office accepts that deed from you, puts it in their filing cabinet, and now it's theirs. Okay. What you cannot do that. Okay. There's also a couple of other nuances here, because a fiction, it's all different levels of illusion, you see. A fiction can't actually really claim anything, okay? But there is a certain element of your consciousness that's making that claim and then handing it over, okay? So there are certain levels of claim that are there, and that, you know, that gives some kind of credibility to the idea of handing over something from your person, which is a fictitious idea, over to another fictitious idea, and so forth and so on. And then they charge you rent back, which they call property tax. That's basically you paying rent on something you think you own, and so the cycle goes on of illusion and stepping into the trap. And the problem is, going down and recording anything at the county recorder's office is stepping back into the trap. So, in order to make a claim, you have to physically take the claim, okay? I'm just going to run through it. You can figure out the rest for yourself. I'll do a video on it. I'll do another video on making a claim. But you have to physically make the claim, and then you have to physically give notice to everybody else to say, look, this is my claim. If you've got a problem with it, then you need to come and talk to me. This is why the Declaration of Independence was made, and they put in there to, with, I can't remember the exact words, but they basically tell the world about it, because this is giving notice to everybody else in the world, okay? So all they have to do is put it in a public place where everybody can see it, okay? That's your sort of good faith thing, that you're making sure that nobody else has a claim to what you want to claim, okay? The other thing is that you look at other individuals' claims, and I say individuals because what we don't know is whether the individual was completely wholeheartedly fictitious or not fictitious, and you have to give, even if it's a fictitious entity, it has to have a certain element of consciousness attached to it, okay? And unlike the legal system that just makes assumptions, it's wrong to make those assumptions as a living man. You know, you need to go ahead and clarify everything out as you go. So you have to have physical possession, you have to have given notice to everybody else that might have a claim, you have to have a claim in terms of you have to make sure your claim in terms of the legal claims before that is clear and free as well. And then what you don't want to do is go down and re-record it at the county office. And you certainly don't want to go down there and re-record it as a real man, because to make a claim, you need to be the real man, to make a claim under God, okay? So you certainly don't want to go down there and start trying to say, well, I'm making this claim and I'm going to record it down here, and that's nothing to do. There's nothing to do. The real man has got nothing to do with the fictional side of things. The county recorder's office, the federal government, any kind of government, anything other than God, you don't have anything else to do with, really. You can have something to do with another real man, but as I go into another conversations, is the other real man, he can't make a contract other than a simple exchange of value right then and there. So you can exchange deeds with the other man, but it's just a simple bill of sale, okay? That's all it comes down to. So 40 minutes rolling on as we keep going. So to make a claim, so you're saying, how do I get my stuff out of that system? Well, what you can do is you can give notice to anybody involved in that system, any persons involved, any fictional entities like the recorder's office. You can go and give notice to those entities that are, and when I say those entities, I'm talking about probably the person you think you are. You can give notice to those entities of your intentions, okay, and your claim and your declaration. Then that's up to them what they do, okay. Once you've given notice, their legal response time is, I think, 30 days, 30 calendar days, or 30 working days. I'm not 100% sure, but it's around about 30 days. After which point, to be decent again, go ahead and reissue. Say, I haven't heard anything back from you. I'm going to reissue this just so that I know that you've got it. I intend I don't know if I'm even going to send my claim through the postal system. I think what I'm going to do is go down there and hand deliver it and ask for a receipt. And that's what I'm going to do. I think that's the best way to do it. There can be no argument that it wasn't hand delivered. You know, didn't get there. So I'm going to do that. I'll do that twice. And I'm also going to go and stick it on their notice board. And when I do go down to stick it on the notice board, I'm just going to have a receipt written. Now, although that's using, let's say, their facilities, if you get into natural law, you will understand that any fictional entity doesn't have a claim to anything that's material. Like the notice board, or even the building down there, is not actually, cannot be owned by anything fictitious. It just can't be. Okay, so there's actually no claim under God of their ownership to anything. Okay, so I probably will stick it on the notice board. In fact, the thing that I thought of doing, I'm in two minds as whether to bother doing that. I'm actually have had the other. I mean, to me, what would be good enough is just going sticking it up on the main at the road at the end of, you know, the public right of way that's at the end of my driveway. That to me is good enough. In England, usually it's a newspaper, and I don't know how long. I think you've got to put it in for a month. Usually they want a month. Usually I want 30 calendar days, and usually it's put up on the road. You know, like if you want to build a house or something, you've got to put your plan and permission or your kind of notice up on the property in the public, where the public can access your property. Okay, if there is a place there to do that. So that is how you would make a claim. I've heard of people saying you've got to post it on all four corners of your property, or you've got to do this. All I think you've got to do is you've just got to make an attempt to put it into the public domain, that the public knows. In all reality, to take it down, I mean, I've got a church at the end of the road. To go and put it on the notice board at the church, I don't see why that wouldn't be good enough, you know. To go and post it at the county office, like that has some meaning in the real world. The thing is, I know there's nobody else that's got a claim to it through the chain of title. And quite honestly, I think posting it just on the road is good enough. It's in the public domain. As soon as it's on a public right of way, it's in the public domain. I mean, we all know. I mean, what's the percentage of people that go to the courthouse to go and look at stuff, or the library to look at their note, and who even looks at the notice board? I mean, to me, if it's out on a board and it's in the public domain for a month, that's good enough. And I'll let them come and say I haven't given good enough notice. I'll ask them what they think good enough notice is, and on what jurisdiction or grounds they claim that. Because the problem is, they can claim anything they bloody well want in their legal system, but you're not operating in the legal system. You're operating under God, and you have to do what you think is right. So if you put it on what you know is a public piece of accessible ground, that should be good enough. Anyway, this video's gone on way too long. The land patent, it is, to summarize, it's just another piece of documentation generated by the system. Yes, it does give you some kind of grant there, and again, unless you accept all the I mean, just by signing your deed, essentially you're accepting that title, that chain of title. To argue anything otherwise, I mean, if you went into court and they said, well, you didn't accept the original land patent, is absolute nonsense. You've accepted, by accepting a colour of title, okay, and by possessing the ground, you've accepted that claim. I mean, I don't, you know, I mean, by all means, write on a piece of paper and say you accept the claim, and just go get it witnessed by somebody else that you've done it on such a date, don't necessarily know. We're getting back into all this thing about when you get stuff witnessed, whether you're getting something witnessed by a real man or a notary that's part of the system, and where do you draw the line at what is part of the system and what can be owned by the system and what is the real man's. It's if you're going into court to argue stuff, you've lost the thing already, because the court, unless you can hold them to the jurisdiction of God, which is what you need to do when you go in there, then you're fighting a losing battle, because you're fighting on their terms, basically. And the winner always writes the rules, if you like. when you go and play in somebody else's backyard, you've got to play by their rules. So it's difficult, to say the least, on where you draw the line and how you draw the line in the sand, and how you draw the line to say you can't step over this mark. And that's natural law. I mean, I don't know how else you do it. I mean, if I had to walk into court, the first thing that I would establish is that the court had to abide by the Creator's natural law, and that is the foundational document within this territory, at least, is the Declaration of Independence. It's in their foundational documents, basically. It's in the foundational documents of the country. It is a legal document. There's no two questions about it. So it's in their system, which I'm sure they're upset about. If people ever cotton on to it, and this is the remedy. God always sticks the remedy in there. It's just that a lot of people at the minute are looking for the remedy within the system, rather than looking outside of the system. So what I'm saying to people is, you've got to look beyond the land pattern in claiming land. Okay, that's what I'm telling people. That you've got to look beyond that land pattern. Okay. If you sat through this whole film video, I keep calling stuff films, I don't know why, but if you sat through it, thank you very much. If there's something useful in it, if there's something you want clarified, ask a question, leave a comment. Please don't leave comments that are argumentative, in the sense of, if you've got a point, just make it. But don't expect me to get drawn into some kind of argument about whether I've got the right to say things, or somebody else has the right to say things, or what constitutes somebody having the right to say something. Just make up your own mind and then go and check it out for yourself. That's all you can do. This whole idea of telling somebody that they can't say what they're saying is absolute BS. What you need to do is you need to be responsible for what you decide as being fact or fiction, okay? So if I've told you something and you don't know whether it's fact or fiction, you should go and research it for yourself. Okay? That's all I can say to people. And then to pass off some kind of blame onto somebody else that they've told you something wrong, well, okay, but don't pass that blame off before you've gone and checked it out for yourself, okay? And also, there's a lot of this just getting people caught up in wishy-washy nonsense arguments that don't really mean anything at the end of the day. Okay, so if you've got a valid question, ask it. If you've got a valid point, put it. If it's, I don't know what to say, just put what you want. Who cares? But what I would like you to do, this is what I'd love to see, is if there's something useful in here, and if if there's something useful you can take away and pass on to somebody else, if you can give the video a thumbs up if there's something useful, or put some comments that are useful downstairs, that would be great, because anything that gets videos seen and gets the truth out there is a positive, you know. So anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I am going to expand on all this kind of stuff in some further videos, okay? To go, you know, and to be quite honest with you, the more you hear stuff, the more it starts to sink in. It's very difficult if you just listen to something. Like, a lot of the time I'll go and listen to a video and I think, oh, I didn't really understand. I'll listen to the same video over and over 2 or 3 times to try and get the concept. And if there's a truthful concept there, it will resonate with you and it will sink in, and you can go and research it further, you know, what somebody's saying, and you can make up your own mind whether it's false or fact or fiction. But the problem that we've got right now is we're dealing with a lot of fiction. And we need to turn back to fact-based stuff that's in the real world, that's fact, okay, stuff that really is real fact, matter of fact stuff. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll say bye. Ciao, bye.